Great morning. Cheers. Got my breakfast. Hope you're having your breakfast. Woo, it's a new week. Hey, let's get to work. Maybe I'll do it with these on since we just finished the Rosarito bike race. Shout out to everybody that was out there. The team was out there. Marv beasted it. If you know Marvin Jerez, Jedez did it in 2.5 hours. Man, that's goals right there. And everybody else that was out pushing their limits this weekend, maybe you did the race or maybe you did something else like a hike, a workout, or I don't know. But let's get to it because it's a new week. Cinco de Mayo is done, and man, we still got 3 quarters left of May. So today we're going to be listening to a guy. His name is Robin Sharma, author of The Leader Who Had No Title, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, 2 excellent books. I've read both of them. If you like story-based books that teach through a story, check those 2 books out. And he's going to be talking about how to build confidence today because confidence is everything. How you going to have a partner one day, or maybe you do, you had to have confidence. How are you going to get that job? You had to have confidence. How are you going to start that business? You got to have confidence. How are you going to raise your children? Got to have confidence. So confidence is everything because confidence communicates things that words can't. Write that down. Confidence communicates things that words can't. So today we're going to be listening to Robin Sharma. Get your notebooks ready. We're going to have some live shares from you guys at the end. And if you can't type because you're at talk because you're at work, no problem. Type in the thread and throw in the thread right now where you're from. We want to know where you're from and something you're excited about. So let's get it. Without further ado, Robin Sharma.
To legendary success isn't your natural ability. It's not whether you have the right product. It's not whether you're in the right field. It's not whether you've had a blessed background. It's not whether you have the right IQ. I want you to really think about and deconstruct and play with, maybe later tonight in your journal. I want you to deconstruct this idea of confidence. And it seems like a very simple word, but just think about it in your own life. When you have confidence, or we could even call it fire, when you have that fire within you, that confidence, that interior bravery, you almost have this power to do whatever it takes to get your brave vision done. You see, in this world, it's not about, in many ways, your strategy in your business or your ability in your life. It's about this thing called confidence. And we have all had these times in our lives when we are full of confidence. And what other people see as a problem, we simply do see as an opportunity. Other people see it as a stumbling block or a wall, and we see it as a stepping stone or this solution. And so confidence is something that you really want to wire in. Confidence is something you really want to develop. Confidence is a practice. Confidence is a muscle. And like any muscle, the more you focus on it and practice it and train it, the stronger your confidence is going to grow. And I just have to say it again. When you are at a place in your life when there is an ongoing, steady stream of confidence moving through your mindset, moving through your heart set, you do the heroic in your business and you achieve the remarkable in your life. And so the first thing I want to offer to you with deep respect as always is simply this. Study the alchemy. That's really the first lesson in generating rare levels of confidence. Study the alchemy. Now here's what I mean by that. What happens to most people in life, especially the victims, is they reach a part of their life, a difficult time, and they call it failure. I mean, even just labeling a setback as a failure triggers something into your mindset to release cortisol, the fear hormone, which blocks your best performance. And so you want to see yourself and you want to study the alchemy, which is where other people are seeing a failure or a setback or even a little problem, you want to look for the gold. You want to train your brain so you have a dominant belief. It just becomes automatic because you've practiced it so much, where when someone says there's a problem or there's a wall or there's a failure, you literally see the alchemy to turn the lead into gold. Maybe you're going through a divorce. Maybe you're going through an illness. A lot of people who watch this podcast are going through difficulties or outright tragedies. But you want to practice seeing the setback or the dark time as fuel to leverage your growth. And so on this first point about study the alchemy, no matter what you're going through in your life, whether it's a large difficulty or a small setback, you want to ask yourself, how can I use what I'm going through as fuel for my growth? You want to ask yourself, what is the gorgeous opportunity hidden inside this so-called problem? I mean, and if you look at the mass of humanity, they really train their brains to focus on problems, right? They hit a wall and they just, because of their belief system, they don't know it because most people are not really that aware of their belief systems. So they blame it on the world. They blame it on the supplier. They blame it on the teammate. They blame it on their husband or wife. They blame it on their childhood versus understanding our daily performance reflects our deepest beliefs. And so if you are experiencing some kind of a setback, whether it's large or tiny, you want to train your brain to see the treasure within the lead. Which brings me to the second way that change makers generate confidence. They flow with the seasons. I mean, our egos and our weaker selves, and maybe I'm getting a little philosophical here, but I think we're all philosophers at some level. And our weaker selves think that success in life is being happy, 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 always being in the sunshine, always being successful. And society has sold us a bill of goods that if we're not successful and we're not on our games and if we're not waking up happy and if we're not full of joy and if we're not feeling all this confidence, there is something that is wrong. And with deep love and respect, this could be one of the most important things I share with you in this podcast. That is just your ego screaming. And that's why I say flow with the seasons. A life beautifully lived is a series of seasons. A legendary producer is not always at the top of the mountain. And so stop resisting. I encourage you, stop resisting the natural flow of epic performance. Stop resisting the natural seasons of life. You see? And so what happens is when you stop struggling and you learn, again, it's a muscle, but you just learn to relax with life. And you simply understand part of living a legendary business life and part of living a rare air personal life means you're going to have seasons of so-called success in society. Maybe it's making a lot of money, being really productive, being at the top of your game, receiving the accolades of peers, feeling you are nailing your goals and your ambitions and your KPIs, your key performance indicators. And you're going to have seasons where you're confused, seasons where you feel heartbroken, seasons where you feel depleted, seasons where you are struggling. And the more you learn to relax into every season, the more you will generate this internal power, which I call confidence. The third method that change makers use to generate great levels of confidence, they bulletproof their TBTF, tight bubble of total focus. In previous podcasts, I've encouraged you to build a tight bubble of total focus around yourself in this age of dramatic distraction. You can be distracted, you can do iconic work, you just don't get to do both. And so the most productive people on the planet and the people with the greatest impact in the world, they all have this metaphorical tight bubble of total focus that they build around their mindsets, their heart sets, and their work routines. And so to generate massive amounts of confidence, you almost have to bulletproof yourself so nothing toxic, nothing distracting, no interruptions can get in. And then what happens is you literally start to drop into transient hypofrontality. That's the neurobiological phenomenon that happens when you drop into solitude and you get out of distraction. And you get into this monomaniacal focus where you slow down the cortisol flow, which is the fear hormone, and you increase serotonin, and you increase dopamine, which is the inspirational neurotransmitter, and your prefrontal cortex, which is the seat of reasoning, and that chattering mind that goes on all day, actually gets silent for a brief burst of time. And that's why they call it transient hypofrontality. For a short period of your time, your prefrontal cortex becomes really, really quiet. And that drops your brain from beta waves to alpha waves. And researchers like Mihai Csikszentmihalyi call this the flow state. When you are playing basketball and you're really in the moment, in the flow of life, hours go by in minutes. And all of a sudden you find these superhuman abilities. Maybe you're at work and you're just jamming on a project with your teammates and you're actually having fun. Well, again, the whole day goes by and you did your best work. That's flow. And how do you get to flow? By protecting and bulletproofing your mindset, your heart set, and you doing your best work. Another way to bulletproof your mindset and create this tight bubble of total focus is really understanding the importance of reading great autobiographies, listening to great podcasts, turning off the news, because the purpose of the news is to frighten you. The news is actually not objective in terms of the way the world is. Reality is so much better. It's so much more positive. There are heroes on the planet. There are so many kind people out there. There are so many people building remarkably awesome businesses. There are so many people scaling great nonprofits. There are so many people out there in your own community living these great lives in their own unique way. But the news doesn't report that. It's one negative story after another because the purpose of the news is to frighten you. And if they frighten you, they're going to addict you. So again, one way to really generate great confidence is to build this tight bubble of total focus around you. And another way to do that is to clean out the toxicity in your life, stop watching news, start reading great autobiographies so you understand, you will have your Robben Island moment or season or year or maybe even a decade. I mean, Nelson Mandela, I was fortunate enough to be in his prison cell last month. And I learned he was on Robben Island for 18 years. His total period of confinement was 27 years. And again, he could have seen that as failure. He used it as fuel. The fourth way to generate confidence is to understand that the brain has a natural negativity bias. And I've alluded to this and spoken about this on previous podcasts, but this ancient brain, the amygdala, it served us really well. It was a survival mechanism that was developed within the human brain hundreds and thousands of years ago. So we were out on the savannah and we had to fight. We had to be hyper vigilant to saber-toothed tigers, to starvation, to being killed, right? And now we are in modern society, but we still have this ancient brain, this negativity bias. And what I'm suggesting to you, and I know you know this, but how many times in your own life you have a great day, you focus on the tiny losses. You have a great life, your brain naturally goes to the things that are not right. You give a great presentation to 100 people and you focus on one negative comment. With your intimate partner, he or she has 1,000 incredible qualities and you focus on the 3 negative qualities. Why does that happen? It's because your brain has a natural bias towards negativity, the negativity bias. And again, tonight, pull out your journal and write about the negativity bias and how that's depleting you and how that's limiting you. And on this fourth point about how change makers generate great confidence, you want to recode your mindset to fight and then beat and then transcend your brain's natural negativity bias. And how do you do that? You simply focus on where you are winning. Rather than saying what needs to improve, you can ask yourself this great question and journal about it. You can do a 30-day journaling challenge where you start to ask yourself, where am I winning in my life? And you do that every day. You start to rewire your neurobiology and your interior psychology. You can ask yourself before you go to sleep every night. I call this the nightly 3. It's one of the rituals I teach at my events like the Titan Summit. And every night before you go to sleep, you can do this while you're laying in bed, just mentally, or you can write it down. You can keep your journal by your bedside table. It's a ritual you can install. Ask yourself, what are 3 good things that happened to me today? And wherever possible, let's say you do a nature walk, let's say you're commuting home from the office, you start to build these rituals where you train your brain, because the brain is a muscle. And you start to ask yourself, where am I winning? What was good today? What am I grateful for in my life? Here's another great question. How could this be worse? You know, I live in Canada. And there is an iconic rock group. They're almost like Canada's national rock group. And they're called the Tragically Hip. And they have been famous for decades. And they do beautiful, beautiful music, you know. And I mean, their music has got me through great times, and their music has got me through painful times. And I just think in many ways their music is genius. And the front man, his name is Gord Downie. And a lot of people describe the way he moved, you know. He moved like he was on a trance, and he was a poet, and he was a great front. He was definitely one of the greatest frontmen in the history of rock music. And, you know, I don't say that lightly, but if you watch some of their videos, you'll know what I mean. And my loved ones and I were very blessed and privileged to be at their last show, which was a few weeks ago in their hometown of Kingston, Canada. And it was just a unforgettable night. The music was just so magical, you know, and the Prime Minister was in the room and people honored him and they celebrated him. But this concert was very sad because it was actually the last show they will ever do. Gord Downie, the front man of the Tragically Hip, has been diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. And so this summer they did a final tour, 10 shows. And I think of him often, you know, after that show, because so many of us have so many blessings in our lives that we take for granted. And positive psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. You know, we get something good in our life. Maybe it's a great relationship. Maybe it's a promotion. Maybe it's a new car. Maybe you're blessed to be healthy. And hedonic adaptation is the very natural psychological tendency for us to dismiss and take for granted what we experience every day. And I think of Gord Downie, you know, I think of his family. I think of what he must be experiencing. You know, if it's indeed true that these are his last days and that was his last show, and what he must be dealing with. You know, and when I watched him on the stage, you know, bringing on his A game, you know, with his bandmates, and they've gone through so many shows around the world together. And here he was, you know, I mean, he's reportedly going through intense chemotherapy, and yet he was just singing with such heart. You know, and one of the lines he said when he talked to the audience, he said, "Thank you for pushing me. You know, thank you for pushing me." And I'm simply reminding you with great respect, you know, focus on where you're winning. Focus on where you're grateful for. Rewire and recode that natural tendency of your brain towards negativity bias. Because, you know, we live in a world where half the world lives on $2.50 a day. You know, it's that Persian proverb, I cursed the fact I had no shoes until I saw the man who had no feet. And then the final way the change makers generate confidence is they stop comparing. And this may seem obvious, but I'm going to invite you to really think about how many times, even in a single day, you compare your success to competition. You compare your life to what it looks like your neighbors have. You compare where you are on the journey of your life to what society says other people are living and what the majority defines success as. And, you know, I'm encouraging you, when you stay in your lane, there is no competition. And one of the great recipes for a life lived unhappily is to spend your best hours of your best days comparing yourself. Oh, this person has a nicer car. Oh, this person has a nicer family. Oh, this person has a beautiful home. They must have it all together. Well, here's the reality. Almost every single one of us alive today, we're struggling. We're struggling with something. We're struggling with a job issue, a financial issue, a health issue, a relationship issue, a spiritual issue. All these people that you see on the street that are wearing happy faces designed to suggest they have massive confidence, they're just like all of us. We're all just trying to figure it out. We all have something we want to work on in our lives. There's all some weakness we can pivot on and make better. That's the human journey. And so my encouragement to you here today on this podcast, where I share from my heart as much passion and love and wisdom and leadership insight as I can bring on for you. Stop comparing your life, because you know what? Everyone has something that they're working on. And the people you think, I've worked with billionaires, and I get an inside private glimpse of how they live every single day, of their psychology, of their emotionality, of the struggles that they have within their family. Many of them are self-medicating themselves. You think they have a beautiful life, they are struggling with just getting through the day.
Man, powerful stuff. We went a little long on his portion, but I wanted to because it was such a great video. So, you ready to share?
Yep.
So let's get some insights from Rox. What you got for us?
I loved in the very beginning, I just saw this quote. He said you can be iconic or destructive inside of your behavior. And I really just love that. And I loved how he was talking about flow and the feeling of flow. And I liked how he said that when you know that you're in flow is when your mind is in alignment with your heart, and inside of that, you're giving your best. And I really, really love that, because so many times I feel like there's been times where I can feel that I am in flow. And when I am in flow, I'm more attractive. I'm attracting people. I just feel good. Everything in my environment just seems to be flowing, and it's just harmonious, and it's just amazing. And I also know the times when I'm out of flow, when my thoughts are everywhere. Nothing seems to be going right. Just everything is just not in alignment. And so for me, I really love this because it's a reminder. And now it's just you have the almost the signals of am I in flow or if I'm not in flow? And if I'm not inside of my flow, what can I do to get inside of that? For me, it's doing things that I love. And for everybody is different. One of the things that I love to do, and it just changes my whole energy, is whenever I put on Spanish music and then I just begin to sing and do all of that, it gets me in a certain state where I just feel absolutely amazing. So I really, really love that. And then I loved the last, I'm just going to go quick so everybody can share. I love when he also talked about writing down the 3 good things that happened to me today, what 3 wins, just because our brain is programmed to always look at the negative and always to be focused on the bad. And he talked about how before we have an ancient brain where before it was survival of the fittest. You had to it was always constant survival mode. So of course you couldn't be focusing on the good, but we've evolved since then. And just pay attention to the conversations around you and notice how most people will always bring about the negative of the gossip and what's going on and what happened versus always looking at the positive that's going on inside of our life. And that's where he talked about how when we don't do that, we can start taking things for granted. And when you take things for granted, then you have no gratitude. You have no appreciation for what is good in your life, because you're so fixed on everything that's going bad in your life. And the more that you're fixed on everything that's going bad in your life, guess what? You'll attract more bad, and you'll attract more of that into your life, because remember, what we focus on continuously grows. What we focus on, that's the basis of it all. So we get to choose every single day what we focus on.
Nice. Great takeaways. Awesome. Shout out to everybody that put in the thread where they're from. I see LA, I see Colorado, I see IE, I see Fresno internationally. Keep putting where you're from. And if you're on at work, you can't share, put your takeaways in the thread. So a couple ones for me are study the alchemy. I really like that, because he said, how can you look inside the challenges that you're facing and turn the lead into gold? That's what alchemists did. If you know what alchemists are, they're from the ancient times, and they would turn lead into gold. It was like a mystical practice. And he said, what is the golden opportunity hidden inside of the problem? And this is something that's been echoed by Napoleon Hill. If you've ever read Think and Grow Rich, Outwitting the Devil, he talks about inside of every obstacle is an equal opportunity for success if you find it. He said the seed is in there. He said not the full blown, the seed is in there. And I want you to just look back on some things that you thought were massive obstacles in your past and look back at it from your perspective of now, has there been a benefit that came from it? And I think more often than not, you will have seen a benefit. Man, that challenge created this. That problem created this growth. That, obstacle created this kind of success for me later down the line where it needed to be there. And during it, I felt like this was the worst thing ever. But then after, it was like it led to some of the best things in my life. And if you can understand that law, I feel like there's laws inside the universe that because we didn't learn them in school, we don't think they're real. For example, if they never taught us about gravity, we would think it was normal that things fall down, but that's an actual law. If you go other places, that's not present, like the space. And there's also other laws. There's laws of physics. There's laws of, give and receive. There's laws of demand, supply. And there's all these laws, but there's more laws that we're not taught. But that just because we're not taught them doesn't mean there are any less laws. You have to discover them, like the law of attraction and the law of studying these obstacles. And I really can echo that. For me, inside of the things that I thought were the worst things in the world actually led me to some of the most beautiful things in my life. And now that I know that, it's not going to say that we're never going to say this sucks and this is hard. And this, I'm not going to say that. Our mind is wired like that. But now what I am saying is I've been given a few more tools to say, maybe this can be different. Maybe this obstacle will in the future be good, and change my perspective during it. What if that could do that for you? The next one was turn off the TV. I really like that one. I want you guys to understand that. Think about it. I'm a physical therapist. So I work with a lot of patients still in the morning. Not a lot. I do part-time. But every time, TV on, radio on, something on, and you got to understand your brain is like a garden. What you put in, you get out. So think about it, even in your own life. What have you been feeding your mind with since you were a kid? Disney movies, cartoons, music from the radio. Think about who created each and every one of those things you've been listening to. Have any of them had your best interest in mind? Think about it. TV is created to make you watch it so you can watch the commercials to sell you something. Radio is meant to hook you to listen more, to sell you something. Movies are meant for you to like, to buy something. They're all created to addict you, to make money off of you. That's why people are not programmed to want to buy books, buy seminars, pay for schooling and education. They're like, why would I buy a book? But they have no problem buying a CD, buying a movie ticket. Why? One has been created for your entertainment. One has been created for your education. And if you understand that, you'll know that your life will not get better by buying things that were made to entertain you. It just won't. So if you look here in our house, we don't have a TV. Haven't had a TV in over 4 years. Why would you look at something all day that's been created to make you buy more? Get more broke. Buy more stuff you don't need. Instead of to put information, he said, start to feed your mind with books and audios and listen and read things that are going to give you valuable information. Think about that, because then what you take in, you get out. So I love that. And then the last thing is you got to rewire your brain. And when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to me. It's going to be a daily, like you have to rewire your muscles in the gym when you're like, man, I'm a little flabby. Man, I'm a little skinny. Man, I'm a little out of breath. You got to rewire your body. Same thing is with your brain. But I want you guys to understand this, and this is something I really have seen. It's so crucial. That's why I actually like traveling. We were in Rosarito this weekend. We were in Mexico for the bike race. And I actually enjoy going there for the exoticness. It's great. But it's a check into reality, you guys. I want you guys to understand, if you're living here in the States, you're in a bubble. I go out there and you see people on the street everywhere. Dogs on the roof, dogs in the street, kids in the like break of dawn throwing apples and stuff around on their brother and sister's shoulders to try to get a couple pesos. Asking for blankets because they don't even have blankets to sleep at night. You guys, something so simple as having a heater in your house is not common out there. Put it like this. The average minimum wage out there is 62 pesos a day. That's about $3. That is about 45 cents an hour. Think about that. And for me, it brings me back to reality because I'm like, man, I'm up here having stress in my brain, not living in a beautiful state at times because I'm upset about, yo, man, Whole Foods didn't have the organic joints on deck. And I'm letting that affect me when there's people making 45 cents an hour. And I'm letting opportunity pass in front of me. Oh, I didn't want to talk to that person to get him healthy with Herbalife. I'm getting my workout in right now in the gym. I don't want to get a new contact and a new friend. And people are working for 45 cents an hour. I'm talking about we're driving past restaurant. People are in the street trying to stop you to say, yo, come into the restaurant. And they're older too. And I'm like, yo, people are hungry out here. They're like, bro, this is the way they eat. That person that's trying to stop you, either they're going to get money from the restaurant or they're going to get free food. So you think they're going to let what you think about them stop them? They need to eat. And I'm sitting up here like, oh, I don't want to go meet new people to grow my wellness coaching business. I don't want to go meet people to grow my network. These people are in the middle of a dirt road stopping me to come into a restaurant. Because why? 45 cents a day is their reality. And for me, that brings me back to what life is really like. Not just inside of my bubble. And for me, that was so beautiful. Half of the world lives on less than $2 a day. And just brings me back to gratitude. And then the last one, stop comparing. For me, I'll give you just an example. Me and Marvin's on the call, did the race together. Marvin finished in 2.5 hours. I finished in about 5 hours. Yeah, I had a flat. I was on the side of the road for an hour. And I could be like, man, he beasted it. Where am I at? I could be mad. No, I'm so happy for the guy. You know why? We've had different paths. If I just look at Marvin and say, well, we did 2.5 hours. This dude's been training since he was young. He loves biking. He does it all the time. He has a great bike, puts in the hours. If I just looked at it on the surface as person to person, it wouldn't be accurate because I didn't see all the work he put in behind it. So if I'm comparing myself, I'm not even comparing myself accurately. And how many times are we doing that throughout our day? That person got a raise. That person moved up inside of Herbalife. That person's getting new results. People get celebrated in public for what they do in private, but you can't see the private. Marvin wasn't doing posts when he was doing, all the work. Marvin wasn't doing posts when he's been training for years. Marvin wasn't doing the posts when he was doing research on the track, doing research on the bike. I just saw the 2.5 hours. So if I get caught up in that, it's not even reality. And it's messing up my time. Instead, understanding that nobody has my same exact path ever in life. Nobody has my fingerprint, my blood type, like bloodstream DNA. Nobody has that. So I can never compare because I'll always be different, as will you. So we'll always be like comparing apples to oranges. Always. Because nobody is you. Nobody. So for me, that was a big breakthrough because I do compare. We all compare. This person's moving faster than me inside Herbalife. This person's getting better results. This person's doing better financially. This person looks happier in their relationship. It can never be accurate. And all it will ever give you is pain. And then on the flip side, that maybe you compare it to your friends that aren't doing as well because they're on a different journey. And you're like, well, at least I'm not there. That's still giving you pain. Why? It's making you complacent. Well, at least I'm doing this. They ain't doing that. That's making you complacent. Only person you can ever compare yourself to is you and what you're capable of. That's it. And the more we talk about that, I feel like the more that will become a part of us. So I love that. So let me get a thumbs up or a smile if you're ready to share. I know we went a little long today, but it was some massive nuggets. Smile up or share. Give me a thumbs up. Rigo, is that you? Oh, let's get it, Rigo. What's your takeaway? You're playing some, okay, you got the music on. I got you. Let's get it. Who else is ready to share? Give me a thumbs up or a smile. I'm looking for you. You can come off mute if you can see me. Who's that? Ava. What you got?
Good morning. How's everyone doing?
Great.
Biggest nugget I took away was that negative bias that whether we want to accept it or not, it's wired into our brain. Dealing with my mental disorder as it's been classified, but honestly, like I feel like it's there's a lot behind it. I'm more passionate now than ever to really get to the bottom of the source of where anxiety and depression comes from, because ever since I changed my nutrition and started working out, things are better now. It's not gone. I'm not going to say it's miraculously gone, but that means that there's something that can be done. However, going back to the negative bias mindset, it is true. Like I've come a long way, and I've just recently found an old dress, and I shared with you guys on our group thread and on my social media the comparisons from last summer to now. But yet I'm still not 100% proud of myself. Why? Because I feel like I still have some more that I want to do. I'm not at my goal, but I can't celebrate what I've already done. So that was a big awakening for me, a big nugget that we need to remember that it's up to us to make sure that we're looking at the positive, not the negative. Negative's always going to be there. It's our choice if we want to look at the positive. Like I purposely do not watch the news because of what he said. It's focused on the negative aspect of the world, but I make it my daily promise to myself and everyone around me to be the positive person in my life, in everyone's life. So if I'm going out there in that mindset, that I'm not the only person out here in this world who wants to be positive, but that's not advertised or anything like that on the media or on the news or anywhere. And so that was my big nugget, that we really need to focus on being more positive. So
Nice. Love that. And thank you for sharing, authentically, Ava. I feel like the more we share authentically, the more we start to understand the human condition that we're all in. Like you talked about, the seasons are going to be there. To think that it's always going to be happy and butterflies and rainbows every single day is your ego wanting to feel comfortable, but that's not how we live. So thank you for sharing that, Eva. It's so powerful, and intentionally wiring ourselves to get back to the positive. I love that. We got from Ashley Ann from San Diego. My takeaway, I love when he said that a setback is not a failure. It's fuel to leverage your growth. I'm learning to be grateful for lessons that I've learned so far, and it truly is retraining our brains to see the gold in the lead. No matter what we've been through, we are learning as we go. Love that. All right, you guys, unless there's one more share, give me a thumbs up.
And there was a question as far as who is the speaker. His name is Robin Sharma.
Robin Sharma, Sharma. He's awesome. Check out his books too. So I think we're going to get to our Monday. Let's get it. I'm going to take everybody off mute. Let's get it.
Hey, happy Monday. Thank you.
Right. Great Monday, great week. Let's get to it. Peace. Hey.